Yes, we're live. Hello, great people, wherever you're joining from. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How are we all doing? Okay, so we're looking forward to a great time today. And as you can see, our guests are ready. We'll be grilling them. Okay, so why are we doing this? With you today are Chidi and Victor Akuna. And if you're watching this, you might be on our YouTube channel, Foundation for Family Affairs. So thanks for joining us. Feel free to subscribe so you can enjoy all the lovely content we have here. And today we've got with us doctors and Dr. and Dr. Mrs. Amugo, and they will be sharing with us a topic we think is really important. Now, we've had this topic come to us in different ways as we coach people, as we speak at seminars, and we just thought we would get them here to also add their voice to it. And I'm sure we all will be leaving here with something. So I'll just have them on now, and they will tell us a bit about themselves. Thank you for joining us, Doctors Gospel and Amara. How are you feeling today?
We're feeling great.
It's a time to, have this conversation with you. We've been looking for it, and here we are today.
Yes.
Awesome.
Because I think we're on the other side. Usually we're on that side, but
it feels good to have you on the other side. Okay, so tell us a bit about yourselves. Tell us about what you do.
You want to go?
Let our viewers meet you.
Okay, my name is Amara. As you've said, this is my lovely husband, Gospel, and together we are so passionate about doing ministry together. So we are in a relationship ministry, isn't it? So we have a forum where we talk about love, about sex, about relationship, and it's Relationship Builders Forum. So basically, we believe in intentional marriage, in intentional relationship, making things work, for yourself in that relationship. And there's something we always say, whatever it is you're going through in your marriage, it is not as important as you. The situation is not as important as you.
So what we try to do is to not just help those who are married, we try to help singles who are about to get married, those who are not even in a relationship, because we believe that if an individual is whole and loving, caring, what you bring into your marriage is who you are. So if you are ready for marriage, then you make it happen. If you're a successful individual, obviously you'll be a successful married person. So we start from are not married and then those who are married. And it's been wonderful. It's been a wonderful, ministry, or will I say a wonderful platform reaching out to people.
Sure. Fantastic.
So apart from that, would say a bit about
so what you do in your personal lives,
what do we do?
We try we try also to pass on information within will I say university setting.
Yes, the academic environment. We're both academic, but in different fields. So I'm in the human resource management and organizational behavior field, and my husband is in public health.
My background is public health, but at the moment I teach in health and social care.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Okay, so the topic we'll be dealing with today is loving a difficult spouse. Okay, so we would like to hear from you. What's your definition of a difficult spouse?
I think when we got that message from you, we had this sort of conversation about, who is a difficult spouse. And I think that boils down to the people in the relationship, your perception of each other. Because a difficult spouse to man A or woman A might not be difficult to man B or woman B. So it's all boils down to your perception about that individual in the relationship. So, and again, this borders around a lot of things. And I'm sure that is why we're having this conversation today, to just sort of unpack, why would someone think the other person is difficult? Why would one, his spouse or her spouse is difficult? And that's why we're here. So again, it's down to perception. I don't know if you have something to say.
Yeah, I think there is no objective way of looking at a difficult spouse. It's subjective. The definition is based on the other. how you see your partner. But then we can also use some criteria to say who a difficult person is. Because obviously, when you interact with people, when you have relationship, even in work environments, you could see that there is an individual, everyone could attest that this person is actually a person. So it's subjective. You can also have some pointers to who a difficult person is. So for me, difficult spouse is someone who is very challenging to live with. Has issues around character, issues around competence in terms of relationship. The person really in need in terms of the relationship, because when you go into a relationship, you expect that there is a kind of moral obligation you have to make the relationship work, to be the best for your spouse. And if that, obviously, you're creating an environment that will not be healthy for your spouse.
I think just drawing from what you said, I think someone who I might consider difficult might be someone who is just so inflexible. So this is who I am. I don't want to change me, but I expect you to change you for me. So I find a lot of people in a relationship, they are always finding that other person is the problem. She is the problem. I'm all perfect. I'm all, stainless, and it's always about he has to change. So that person has to move for me, and not me constantly thinking about what can I do to improve the relationship. And if one finds themselves in that sort of situation, then I would say that that person
they're married to a difficult person.
So
we, in a nutshell, we look at it from two perspectives. One, a difficult person is dependent on, will I say a difficult spouse, is dependent on the person's partner. And a difficult person is someone we could say have elements of character issues, flaws that makes elements that make it difficult for others to relate with them in a favorable or in a very conducive way.
No, I kind of I have
fantastic.
The reason why I say that is that look, not everyone is perfect. Not everyone is perfect. We all have our character flaws. But I think the emphasis should be more on when that character flaw has been pointed out. So, say for example, there's something I'm constantly doing, or maybe I'll constantly raise my voice, or I remember when we got married newly, it was more like when I'm angry with you, I sulk. I tend to sulk a lot. So I kind of not talking to you, and then you pointed it out to me. Now imagine that I say to myself, no, I'm not the problem here because this is who I am, but you need to change. So I think it's not about the person that has a character flaw, because look, we're not all perfect in a relationship. To a point where you say, oh, I see where he is. I see why this is unhealthy for our relationship. And at this point, I need to make some changes. I need to make some adjustments. So it's all flexible. I think that's the point.
Yeah, you're actually looking at things that could be done to improve the relationship when someone is difficult. But the question is, who is the difficult spouse? So,
we like that.
We like that.
From my point of view, you're into research, so you understand the issues around subjectivity and the issues around objectivity. So someone could listen, I would say, well, I know who a difficult spouse is because I'm married to one. And if you look at it, that person is saying the truth, because there are elements point out that, well, this guy is not honest. This will, let me not say guy, so it doesn't look like this person is not honest. This person is faithful. This person is not loving.
Or this person doesn't manage finance.
This person is everything negative you can say a human being is. And I'm stuck. So obviously, this person is difficult. I know that they are difficult individuals.
Fantastic.
So when you're married to that kind of person, you're married to a house. Then on the flip side, it could be that this person is not actually difficult.
But your perception.
It's the way you look at this person that colors
Mm.
the perspective of the person to
Look
look difficult to you.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
We are saying
Fantastic. Well, I like I like the discussion. I like the perspective. And one thing I can unpack from what you said is one, difficult spouse can be subjective.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's how you perceive it. And sometimes the person saying his spouse or her spouse is difficult is the difficult spouse. Because you are the one like said, you are challenging, you are pointing out everything. So sometimes the person who is pointing the accusing finger is the person that is actually the difficult spouse. Again, there are some other traits that makes living with that person quite unbearable.
exactly.
So when it comes to the issue of values, notice that maybe you have a value of integrity and you have a spouse that you can't trust anything they say. So, or you have an agreement that this is how we're going to manage our finance, and then the next thing, the person has made all the withdrawals to do something that probably you do not approve of, and it has been happening over and over again. So there's an objective perspective to it. There's a subjective perspective to it.
I like that perspective. Yeah.
So another question I'd like to ask is, now, when is it possible that when people are dating, they like each other, the relationship is going well, and then is it possible for the person one of the spouses to now later become a difficult spouse?
Well, it depends on what we are looking at here. We can also look at it in two ways. The first part is that during dating or courtship, whichever way you look at it, people tend to overlook bad negative behaviors because your emotion at that phase, you two things. You might think, okay, fine, this lady guy is not positive in this area, but I know change when we get married. So people tend to shove things away, thinking it's not going to be there in the long run. The other thing is that sometimes people hide. So they hide areas that they don't want you to see. For instance, if you're going out with a lady, you don't go out looking ruffled. You don't go out when you're not in the best mood. You up in a state where you're outing.
Yes.
And because I don't live with you, I don't know how you wake up in the morning, how grumpy you are. I wouldn't know that part of you. So you bring yourself when you go out. Your manners, think about the process even within the confines of your interaction outside so it's difficult to know the real person. The other thing is that people might be nice at this phase of their life, but when the responsibilities of marriage comes into when you have children, when you have responsibility like financial responsibility and all of those, the real person, the negative side of you becomes
it might not be negative, but I think sometimes the real you is revealed under pressure.
Yeah,
important.
So maybe those areas you've not, those are your blind spots. You've not really worked on them because circumstances have not created opportunity to see them. Now that men, let me give you an instance. When I started a relationship with you, I didn't know I could get angry.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and when we started off, I was able to manage some conflict. I was fine. But then when we agreed we were getting married, little things, I became upset. And the root cause was that I was like thinking, would this woman respect me or not? So I was with the eyes of, is that a sign that she's respectful
or disrespectful?
For instance, if we plan to meet and you don't keep to that time, I wouldn't even consider make it on time. I would think she's taking me for granted. Created a room for me to be upset, boiling, angry. Something happened which I don't want to bore our audience with, that I had to have a retrospective time to look at myself in the mirror and say to myself, this is not good. If you will be a husband, you have to deal with this. And I could say to an extent, I was able to deal with that character issue.
I think you have.
Fantastic.
I don't want to say, yes, I've dealt with it. I said to an extent. So,
okay, you're going to tell us how you dealt with it as you carry on, but please go on.
Okay, for me, in that sense, what I did was, I believe in God, I believe in the Bible. So I had to look at it from the principles of God's word. What does God say about anger? And I looked at it that one thing is that anger does not work out righteousness. No matter how you look at it, anger as an emotion is a positive thing in a way if you manage it well. But once you don't manage it effectively, it will never work out a positive thing in your relationship. Two, how you feel about anger is not about your spouse. It's about you.
How you
How you process the things that do you give that person a benefit? So I renewed my mind. That's the simple thing. I read a book by 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I learned about this. Look at things from a broader perspective. The reasons for why this person acted the way the person acted. Have the full knowledge before you make your conclusion. You might be drawing a wrong conclusion from one angle. So that helped me. Even now, if there's any issue, what I tend to do is I tell myself, I control my side of this. I control how I control how I act.
Fantastic.
So that's how it is. So back to our point, what I was saying is that if people look at it very well, it all starts from the beginning during dating. It could be that the person has not changed. The person has those elements that would show difficulty in the marriage.
I would say, look, if you guys are honest, like, let me just be real. If you guys are your relationship, you would have identified some signals.
The red signs.
It would have maybe not as conspicuous as it is right now in the marriage, because now everybody is like, we're there, you know, we're in it together already. But if you had taken time to identify those things, and this is what I say to some people who go into relationship, I say, look, that moment where you guys are having a relationship before marriage presents you with an opportunity to talk over some things, deal with some little things that might be big
Major
issues
things.
in marriage. You know, you identify, oh no, I don't think this is good. You have a conversation about this thing that you don't think is, oh, why do you think this is not good? Or how can this affect our relationship? And then you begin to work on it. But you find that a lot of people now, when they're in love or they're in a relationship, they tend to gloss over some of those signals. Very little, very meager, but you just over it and say, oh, you know what, we'll make it work and things like that. And they now become big in the marriage. And the question, most times I ask them, did you observe these things before marriage? The answer really yes,
but I thought it would change.
That's
not I've always believed that marriage creates opportunity for you to reveal more of you.
That's right.
It's always, it might be minor before, but once you get it's magnified. Because I'm going to see it from a closer proximity.
You're
going more.
Microscope.
Magnifying lens. Saying it. You're going out to try to like look good. You keep all the, in marriage now, everything, all the facade, everything is all let down.
At least now I see you without your makeup. I know how you
right.
Yes.
I know you're angry, how you react. Now there is no bias, in response. Now you're free to be yourself. You can't pretend forever. So what people is that love that is all over you now, put it to test. Let love go through test of time, because time a lot.
And when we talk about not just time in terms of duration, because sometimes people spend a lot of time, you know, trying to find out more about themselves without the quality of time. So it's about time, not the quantity of time.
Within that time, sometimes
absolutely,
the focus could be on the physical, which is the concept of managing time out before marriage. The focus could be on we'll spend our holidays in book now. Superficial things. I think that's the time to ask critical questions.
Yeah,
absolutely.
How do you deal with finance? How do you tell me more about yourself? Tell me about your relationship with your siblings,
with your parents.
With those stories, you can pick out some values.
Exactly.
Fantastic.
How the person, you know, if the person is not there yet, you could also create room for can we meet a counselor? Can we read books? Can we improve? I've not always been like this. When I met my wife, I was the quiet type. She was the one that would tell all the stories in the world. I'll be the one listening and, you know, enjoying it. But I realized that in marriage, you don't have, it's not monologue, it's dialogue. You have to communicate. You have to know how to speak your mind in a good way. So what I'm saying in essence is those things that are lacking that you know you can adjust in marriage, you can live with, make out time to work on them, plan on how to get them working.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, host. Are you still there? Okay, I think possibly we're all.
Let's keep going.
Yes.
So like we were saying, those are the things you need to do. You need to actually, you know, look at marriage for a long time because it's not a one-off thing. You're not going to be married for 1 year. You're not going to be married for 5 years. You're going to be married for life. So before you get into that process of, you know, saying I do, be sure that you've considered all the facts.
Yes, true.
You
That's
know
true.
the elements, and you're sure that, well, I am willing, I'm committed to, you know, walking into this marriage and being the best that I'm supposed to be in it. And
I always say something. You know, let me say a little bit here. I always say something that you're getting married to someone, and most times I find people who have been married, say for 10 years, 5 years or more, 15 years, 20 years. Some, not all of them, but they get to a point where it becomes normal. Everyone is used to themselves.
Yeah.
And I always ask this question: how did you feel when you first met? You know, why is it that you don't try to reenact that experience as you go on in the marriage itself? Because sometimes I think that is why it wanes. Yeah,
because you know, sometimes people see marriage as a default thing where, for men in particular, most times we see marriage as a project. Yeah. Getting married is a project. So once you try your best to cross that bridge, thank God now I am married. What's the next project? The next project is to take care of this wonderful family. You're thinking, we will have children, we have to take care of them. So the next project is, how do I raise money to take care of my family?
Yes. So I think there's a question on the chat.
We will come to that question. Let me just round up it.
Yes.
So you're now thinking, wife, you know I love you. I said I love you, and I loved you before we got married. So you stay at home or do whatever you want. I want to conquer the world of finance because I want to take care of the home. In that sense, you leave out those key things that brought you guys together. So my advice will always be, find a balance. Live a life of balance. Don't just focus on one thing and leave out your family, because if your family is dying, if things are not working in your marriage, it's going to affect every other aspect of your life.
Absolutely. Yeah. A question here is on the chat saying, when is the best time to establish boundaries to let your partner know about their likes and dislikes in the relationship? Is it during courtship or is it in marriage? Wow. I think that's a very critical question.
Wow, I think it's actually before marriage. Because you need to do what we call a test of character. know that this person you're going to live with have likes and dislikes, and ask yourself, will I be able to live and be happy with this person's likes? If I cannot live with this person's likes, then I don't have to make that commitment
at all.
Because there are key elements you have to look out for. For instance, if it's just a superficial thing like her makeup, her physical things, and all of those, you can take those ones and say, yeah, I can live with them.
Yeah.
But if there are character
Critical
issues
things,
like
yeah.
core values, honesty, faithfulness, what else? Commitment to the marriage and all of those. If those things are not there, you need to know before marriage, before you commit.
Yeah. I think just drawing from what you said, basically anything that can chip away trust in your relationship is a red flag. And I would say that it's very important for you to unpack all of that before marriage, because this person needs to know who am I actually going into marriage with.
I also want to point out that the likes and dislikes are not constant.
Exactly.
They are progressive. What I liked before, maybe 20 years ago, maybe slightly different from what I like now.
True.
So we keep looking out for what my spouse likes and what she dislikes. Try and focus on ones she likes and avoid the ones she does not like. So as you progress, you keep checking out, researching your spouse. That's why for those of us that are Christians, we believe the Bible says, deal with your spouse with knowledge.
Understanding.
So knowledge is progressive. You keep learning, you keep speaking language, you keep doing the best for them. Let's allow our hosts. I know they have a lot to say.
Oh wow, you guys have been on fire. Thank you for that. And I think you addressed a question that came on in the course of it. Meanwhile, someone had something to say earlier. I thought I'll just bring that up again. And she said, great point. When a spouse becomes difficult, it is that the person, it might be that the person is going through a lot. Okay. So probably not knowing how to handle the phase of life the person is at that point.
Yeah. You guys have another thing I want to point out from what you guys said is I think that's good. Let me just ask the next question and then I'll come back. The next thing I wanted to ask was more like,
okay, should we take a question in the chat box?
Boys,
is there a question?
Before you carry on.
Yeah, go on.
Very critical points that person has raised. And I think in a relationship, which judging from what we said earlier about perception and perspective. So when you focus so much on me, it's a relationship. And if you get to the point where we all are naturally self-centered, right? Human beings. You're doing everything for yourself. You bathe yourself. I eat myself. I do myself. And now you're in a relationship. You have to share certain things. Get to the point where you become vulnerable. But you see, it's difficult. And when we go from a point of self-centeredness to a point of selfishness, so everything about me. So my spouse needs to make me happy. My spouse needs to make sure that he is okay, or whatever he does is to make me pleased. This is the problem. Now, people go through phases in life. People go through stuff. I could be that cheerful, gleeful, person that my husband got married to, and then course of life, right? As a woman, you start having children, you have fun, you go through that phase. So imagine someone who is used to having their space. Imagine somebody who is not a sanguine. Imagine someone who is more of a melancholy, for example, right? They like their space. They like time to reflect. They like time to think. Now they are constantly saddled with the responsibility of taking care of a baby every time, doing everything. Not that they don't like the fact that they are mothers now, but trajectory. And this is mess up with their me time, their routine. Now, the spouse don't understand that, look, my wife is probably going through a phase because this is the kind of person she is, but life has put her in a way where she's beginning to experience some challenges. And I think an understanding spouse at that phase should be more sensitive towards that. Because anything, work pressure. So probably has been given a promotion at work, more responsibility. yes, the money is good, but it doesn't come with more responsibility, and you're going through a phase. So
Yes.
if the focus is me, and you're not seeing things from why is this person suddenly distant? Why is this quiet? Then it's a problem.
Fantastic.
Yeah, to add, I think it goes down to the definition of who is a difficult spouse. It's possible this person naturally is not a difficult person, but in a difficult season of his or her. And because managing stress, the person creates a difficult relationship.
Absolutely.
So now is most times we use that experience to define our spouse.
Yeah.
So rather than say that, oh, we are going through a difficult season in our marriage, you say, I am dealing with a difficult spouse.
Person.
Yeah, sadly.
So
Yeah.
finds the person. And once
Yes.
tag your spouse a difficult spouse, all you will see around you is
absolutely
difficulty.
Even when the person does his or her best to please you, even that pleasing comes with a time difficult.
difficult pleasing.
Okay, we have a question here for you. Just I think we should just take it so we deal with it before going on. How can a couple deal with broken trust in a marriage?
Wow.
Okay, I think that this came out of some of the things you touched on while speaking.
Yes.
Okay, because at that point where you talked about being also packaged before the relationship, and then we're married, and I'm seeing some things I'm finding disappointing. Like, how did I get into this? How has he become like this? How do we begin to navigate that season and then deal with broken trust? It might be more serious than I'm painting.
You can go before me.
Okay, now I always say this. Love is given unconditionally in marriage. Is there an obligation you have to love your spouse, whether the person is trustworthy or not, whether the person is faithful to you or not, whether the person is doing his or her best or not, especially if you're a Christian. However, trust cannot be given unconditionally. Trust is earned. Trust is earned. And when trust is broken, it has to be rebuilt. You don't expect me to trust you just because you've done something that broke our trust, and all of a sudden you want me to just trust you. It doesn't happen like that. It's a problem. So this is where people miss it. Sometimes people think because love is unconditional, trust should be unconditional.
No.
Not true. You earn trust. Even God trusts us based on what we do, even us unconditionally. So how do you rebuild trust? You have to build that process of rebuilding trust. But the person who has broken trust has to be accountable. Take responsibility.
Absolutely.
The trust that has been broken. For instance, if I told lies to my wife, I don't tell her, but let's assume something happened, I told lies to her. And she found out that that was a big fat lie. How do I rebuild trust with her? All I have to do is to take responsibility for what I've done, ask for forgiveness. Yes, she will forgive me, and build traits, or will I say markers, that will prove to her that I have actually changed. So it is in the process of showing that I have changed that she can gradually gain trust, or I will actually gain trust from her.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. So that's the first point. The other point is that honesty. You have to be transparent. You have to be open. You have to communicate. If you're not open, then trust is difficult to build in that sense.
Yeah. I think a lot of what my husband has highlighted borders around competencies. This that is not usually. I'm a Christian. I love God, but most we don't discuss this. A lot of people go into marriage, but they don't have the right skills to deal with issues that happen in marriage. And most I kind of look at it from the point where people are taking on a lazy approach towards managing conflict or managing things that chip away trust in relationship. One needs to be skilled in the art of communication.
Yeah.
You have to. The life of a relationship hinges on that. And if trust is broken, the first step is don't ignore what has been led trust be broken. The first thing is let us have a conversation. And when I'm saying a conversation, not a conversation where we are both bickering at each other, like he's saying his own, I'm saying my own, and nobody's listening to what the other person is saying. Like this is where now the skills of communication, how do you communicate effectively to understand what was it that led to you feeling let down or your trust being chipped away?
Yeah.
That's the first step. And a lot of people skip over this step and expect that I don't understand why my wife or I don't understand why my husband will be holding up to this for too long. First of all, let's slow down. Let's discuss this. You just want them to forgive and move on.
It happen like that. Like you're saying, that communication is there and it's a two-way thing. Both
absolutely
trust is broken and the person who is responsible for breaking the trust, they have to talk. And you might need a third party to come into that conversation because sometimes they see things from their own point of view and they try to be defensive even when they know they are wrong. So when you bring a professional out without bias, that will help you and set out what you need to do step by step to come back to where you used to be. So it is a progressive thing. The other thing I want to say before we move on is you have to set. So if what happened before that led to that trust being broken is still there, if indicators are still there and you don't remove them, if I will use sexual relationship, for instance, relationship with marriage, and you're always making out some, social media comments at work or whatever for the opposite sex, and you still keep them
and not
very close.
Not just keeping them very close. The person, your spouse is saying,
I
uncomfortable.
don't want this. You said,
so like, why is she being a child, or why is he being a child? Not that I tend to be who it is, but you're trying to say that person is being a child rather than listening to that person. It's saying, okay, is it but XYZ persons, whoever name, and no. You don't compare somebody else's relationship with your relationship.
Absolutely.
Of the matter is, if you have a problem, or if you had a problem, in terms of that having, maybe it might not even be a sexual relationship, but something close to that, and your spouse found out and has said to you, this thing is wrong, and the person is hurt, trust is broken. You need to walk away from that kind of relationship. That is so if you want us to build trust and you're still in that kind of scenario, you're not ready. So you have to set boundaries.
Fantastic. Wow.
And I need to move on.
Fantastic. So what I've learned from what you guys have said in terms of trust is that trust can be rebuilt. It can be rebuilt, but it takes a process. It takes a process, and there are some key indicators that need to be in that process. One is that whatever caused that led to the breaking of that trust needs to be eliminated. So you can't tell me, oh, I'm sorry about that, but you see perpetuating that same act. Trust can never be rebuilt in that kind of situation. So you must do your own part by removing that obstacle that caused the distrust in the first place, to be able to resolve that. Another thing is that you need to make yourself trustworthy. You need to make yourself trustworthy. When you are removing that, you need to also be accountable. So maybe, for example, you're doing this social media example you used, you have to now come forward and say, this is my password. You have access to all my password. So you can log in, and God help anybody that the person is chatting and the other person thinks he's the guy. So the person needs to come in and be transparent, be accountable.
I don't mind. I'm free.
You know, yes,
Exactly.
because it takes a process of time for the heart to heal.
Exactly.
And don't expect your spouse to trust you immediately, because Amara used an example, says, why is he being, why is he being? No, you need to give her the permission or him the permission to come catch up with you. And you shouldn't more like throw your hand in the air, be like, why is she making life difficult for me? No, you created this and we are trying to resolve this. So that is very, very, very important.
I just thought I would say something for to our viewers. If you think your question has not been properly dealt with, please ask it again. I'm sure they're ready for you. Thank you.
I wanted to say something, please, if I may. Getting your spouse in their hands in a cookie jar, because now let me just, because sometimes there are different levels of trust chipping away. There's a level that the trust is like 99.9% chipped, gone, right? And there is like 1% gone, where maybe probably you just cut in maybe his hand in a cookie jar, that instance, versus the extreme. Now, I would say that the extreme where it's 99.9%, it takes a longer time. You have to be very patient. And in the course of the whole conversation, you also need to do an audit. At every phase, you have to audit, because there are some instances where the trust has been chipped away. For example, where there are forms of infidelity, for example, or a case. There was this example where a couple we were speaking to, they had some donations from wedding, and then the woman actually used the investment, every single money that was raised for the wedding, without letting the husband know, until after 5 years, when they needed to go back to use that particular money. It was such a big deal. Now, this can break a relationship. Now, I would say that it depends on where you are, but do not expect it to be immediate. And at the same time, constantly do an audit at every point to be sure that you guys are at least making progress towards establishing trust.
I also want to add, if your spouse has broken trust for whatever reason, and this person has actually changed, you've seen signs that there is change, please give the person a second chance. Give the person a benefit of the doubt. I know trust is a big issue, especially when you hold this person precious in your heart and you trust this person 100%. So, but give that person a second chance, because we break God's heart as well, and He always gives us many chances. So for your marriage to work, as long as you see that person not be trustworthy, I think it's difficult to see things that would reinforce your sense of trust. As long as you think the person is still in that person's bad behavior, whatever it is. Another thing I also want to say is that sometimes we project that thing. It's not like the person is not trustworthy, but our fear. Maybe you are afraid that, for instance, if I'm afraid that my wife, when she came over to the UK to study without me, if I was afraid that she would move out with another man, that could project lack of trust in the marriage. Not because she's doing anything, but because of my personal fear. So some people are afraid. Some people look at what's happening in their environment and they just push it that it's like you're doing something. And
you project
trust
it.
is going.
Yes.
Not because there is any reason to lose that sense of trust in your marriage.
I think this kind of echoes what someone has just put on the chat. If the spouse apologizes about a mistake, should the other spouse bring it up again and again? On level, see, there are people that can't let go. I want to say,
but even if you can't let go, you shouldn't. You see this thing.
That's where I'm going.
Okay,
calm
go.
Down,
Let me, because okay, carry on.
Go there.
There are people that can't let go, and I can't tell you how toxic it is for you to stay with someone who can't let go. They use every slightest opportunity to remember, this is how you did it in 2002. And in fact, they even go as far as giving you all the details, what you were putting on,
the color of the perfume, the color of the dress you're wearing.
Oh my God. See, look, what in your relationship is not as important as the person you're married to. I don't know how I can emphasize this. And if people can come to understand that, look, my relationship, prioritize the man or the woman, prioritize that person above the situation that happened. It has happened. That situation made my spouse to feel bad. The focus shouldn't be on the situation. The focus should be on the fact that my spouse is not feeling okay.
That's
and
right.
now the focus is, how can I make my spouse feel okay? And I think that if we do that, we will let go easily.
Yeah, but so from the other point of view, if trust has been broken, first time you apologize, second time you apologize, third time you apologize, and there is a pattern to this trust being broken, then it becomes difficult for that spouse to let go. But however, if this person genuinely apologized and you know for sure that the event is in the past, the best to do is to forgo what happened, forgive, yes, and don't raise it. Even when you remember it in your head, tell yourself to raise this issue again because it's past. Think solution.
Yes,
don't
think solution.
Think problem. Think proof, not what you did the other day, many years ago. Because if you see, it is more like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes.
Just think that he's going to do it again. I know she did it before. She's going to do it again.
You see it. Will manifest.
Things will happen. And the funny part of it is that this person will now say, you know what? She has seen my worst. I'm doing what I'm doing. And I will not tell her. Because if I tell her, I'm saying her because I'm a man. If I tell her, she will use it against me. So secrecy comes in. And let me bad drive.
Fantastic. Another thing I've observed is that sometimes people who are hurt, they don't even know what if you ask them, for example, so what do I need to do for you to let go of this? They don't even know. Some people enjoy that hurt. They want to stay in that zone because naturally there is a certain emotional feeling that comes with it. So I like the point you said is that once the person has apologized, learn to let go, because without that letting go, that relation cannot progress. And if you are the kind of person that in your mind you feel, I'll just apologize because your spouse is a very amiable, easygoing person. Oh, I'll just apologize. I'll just apologize. And that's what you have. You are damaging that relationship beyond what you think. Fantastic.
Thank you. You guys are doing great. And we're having a lot of questions coming through. So I hope you're ready for this. We have one question here. If you can please throw some insight.
Okay.
No, let her ask the question.
Okay, I think she just put it up. I don't know.
We lost your audio there.
Oh, okay. We have a question on the screen. Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so please respond to this. Thank you.
Who should make the first move for reconciliation? The offended or the offender?
Or the offender.
Let me start.
Okay, go on.
I think it depends on who you're married to. Look, there are some scenarios where the offender, the offender would not make the move, right? And you're offended, so you are the one who has been hurt. It sounds like a cliche, but the thing here is, what is more important? Because as long as the offender and the offendee, both of you are there, nobody is happy. Nobody's happy. So I think it's about prioritizing your happiness as a couple. It's difficult because sometimes the situation is heated and it's difficult for someone to forget easily and now make that move. But I would say that if you both are in the relationship for yourself, you make the move. I mean, let me give you an example. There are sometimes that
who makes the move?
Why are you putting me on the spot?
No.
Oh, I thought you were asking me now.
I always make the move.
Yes. The move. Because most times, no, you not.
Okay,
you,
most times I
you
make
the move. Is that I think sometimes it's like
maybe it's a man thing.
no, there are some men that don't make the move.
Okay,
I've heard in some relationships.
Okay, let me say
it's always the woman.
It's my philosophy.
It's a tricky question.
Yeah, no, it's not actually a tricky.
Boy, yeah.
Looking at trust.
Okay, trust.
You are looking at when there is
a
an
normal
issue.
situation.
Exactly. When trust is broken, look, the way I see it is the person who sees that trust is broken should make the move first. For instance, someone has broken trust and I've realized that this person has broken trust and this person has not come forward to say, this is what I've done. I need to find a way to bring that issue on board. You've done this, that, why? So the person is offended should make the move, because if you don't, you die in silence. And you will say be selfish here, because you can't be happy with yourself when you know that your spouse has done something that hurts you and the person is not even taking responsibility for that. Or in the natural sense, the person who should make the move should be the person who has broken trust.
That's true.
Fantastic.
When you do something wrong, you take responsibility for it. Even if we use the scenario of relationship between God and people, when you offend God, you go to God in prayer. But then God also comes to you to tell you you've done something wrong by convicting you. So it's a mutual thing.
Fantastic.
The idea is the relationship, because you want it to work. You want to be happy. And because you, even though your spouse has offended you, you also want your spouse to be happy. This is because if she's not happy and you love your spouse, there is no way you will be happy when your spouse is not happy. So what do you
That's
do?
the ideal.
Opportunity for you guys to resolve the issue so that you will be happy, your spouse will be happy, and your marriage will be beautiful.
Yeah, you make it sound
fantastic.
like
yeah, but that's the
Wait,
idea.
Let me play, because sometimes you actually go to the person you're offended, right? Because it even hurts deeply when you go to the person you are the offended, and you go to the and say to the offender, oh, let's have a conversation, like you've just described. And then the offender takes, they takes pride in making the offended feel less. Or even, because I've seen the instance where someone say, okay, fine, I want to broker peace. And ask yourself, why did I even make this step in the first place? And I see a lot of situations where people take their pride will destroy the relationship. Because why would it be that I have offended him or her or whoever it is in the relationship, and still gloating in the glory of she has come or he has come to ask me for forgiveness or for us to talk over this? I think it's the highest form of selfishness, to be honest.
Fantastic.
Let me land. I think it's really selfish, because there are a lot of people. There's a lot of people in a relationship that behave this way, and how would you feel? Because if you treat your spouse the way you want to be treated, and the whole issue around respect would also come in, because sometimes you want to speak to someone, and the way you go about speaking to the person about what that person has done would even make the person to be offended. So it's a two-way thing. So it's about how you even go about having that conversation with that person and not rubbing it in. So that person already knows that, yes, I am the offender. And then you go to the person, you're going like a judge in a law court, and you're just putting all the evidence and everything in front of that person. Of course, that person would want to defend himself or herself. It's about how you present the matter to that person. And if you say that person is your spouse, you should be able to understand how you can go around speaking to that person in order to get that person to have a conversation with you.
Fantastic.
Really crucial.
Well, the other point to look at is that it also depends on how people approach things. So my point is, always play your own role, do your part, and listen your spouse or whoever it is in the relationship to play his or her own part, because you can't influence the person's action. You can't how the person wants to feel or how the person wants to treat you, but you can actually influence your actions and your reactions within the relationship.
Fantastic, fantastic. Wow, you guys have really touched on a lot, and it's going to lead us to the next question, which is more like, how does a marriage become toxic?
I think we've actually talked about one of those issues, which is trust. So we don't need to go back to it. The other point is when marriage is left to run itself. When you look at marriage from a default point of view, you think it will just happen. You're not intentional about your marriage. You're not bringing up those elements that kept you guys in your best mood or in your best intimate level before now. If you leave them out, for instance, if I stop talking to my wife, one day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, there will be a lot of things, a lot of gap, emotional gap.
Spot on.
That she wouldn't know about me, I wouldn't know about her. Taking this, if you think of someone you've known for maybe 10 years ago and you've not had any communication with the person, and all of a sudden the person wants to interact with you, you could sense that there's a gap. That is actually what happens in marriage. When you don't do things intentionally, your marriage grow weeds. It's like a farmland. If you don't cultivate things, remove the weeds, make it work, it gets, and you start thinking, what's going on here?
Yeah. And I think another thing that people, some people in relationship don't do is the fact that don't judge your spouse or by how you met or knew him or her 10 years ago. What they used to love 10 years ago, who they used to be 10 years ago. Life is right. Everyone is growing, and it is important that you grow alongside. Some people don't grow, they don't grow together in marriage. One person is growing, and when I'm saying growing, I'm not talking about just going to study education and all the other things people talk about. It's fine, but sometimes people just get educated, but they are not actually educated. So the fact being intentional about
upskilling yourself,
developing your mindset,
your everything about you,
total package.
Yes, absolutely.
So you got married to someone, you used to look a certain way, you used to dress a certain way, all of a sudden, fine, you have maybe kids, and you stop maintaining yourself to allow, you just chill, everything.
Allow life to happen to you.
Exactly. So it is important that you build yourself. I mean, you might not look the way you were looking 10 years ago, but at least you need to look apart for your spouse. And it's just being intentional about what you do in that relationship and making sure that you don't allow weeds to fester. Now, I was analogy. He gave an analogy of a farmland. I give an analogy of you trying out a musical instrument, for example. Trying out a musical instrument, it's possibly out of tune, and that equates to people just starting out on their journey in their relationship. It's totally like tune, and you guys begin to talk, you begin to find the tune, you begin to whatever those instruments, and you don't know the strings and all that, just to find the right tune. And as in playing and having that dance, like we discussed previously with you guys, in your relationship, you begin to establish a different routine. Every phase in marriage, for every season in marriage, always a tune. There's always, and it's about that sort of rhythm in your relationship, and maintaining it. But again,
it's a discord.
Exactly. So you just have to find it. And the thing is that sometimes people want to bring somebody else's rhythm into the relationship. There's something, I was discussing this with my husband, and he was saying something. Imagine everyone is playing different instruments. Someone is playing the keyboard, they're all playing the drums. They're all playing like very wonderful tune. But when playing it in silos, it's not coming together.
Yes.
And this is what happens in a relationship. If the husband is playing a different tune, the wife is playing a different tune, they will be playing beautiful tunes, don't get me wrong.
Yes,
but
Yes.
it's noise.
It's called discord.
Yes.
No harmony.
Nothing. So it's about finding, and you know, like I said, your relationship is like a living organism. To work it out.
Yes.
You need conscious, you need to water it. You need to make sure, like, you know, sometimes I get man and, you know, kind of like I have to look for something to say, oh, I love your nose. I've said it before, but I have to say it to them. Give him that kind of spark. You know?
Yeah.
I think it's something good to always say to your spouse intentionally. We gravitate towards praise. We gravitate, you know, show of affection. And these things with the toxicity in your relationship.
Yeah, package it in a different way. We all move towards what gives us pleasure. That's right. What gives us pain. So the focus should not be the painful side of the relationship. The focus should be the pleasurable side of the relationship. Look at your spouse. You will see the bad, but forget the bad. Pinpoint the good things about your spouse and keep your mind on them. Emphasize those good elements. You'll be surprised. It will be a motivation for your spouse to.
Fantastic. Awesome.
In my native language, they say if you praise someone who prepares a delicacy, the person will bring more. I don't want. Yeah. So I don't.
Fantastic. We got
that.
You know.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. That was really intense. Okay. I want to.
One point.
Okay.
Go on.
We talk about toxicity, or I don't know how.
Yes.
Point. Yes. Sometimes it speaks to stress levels.
And
people don't take time to detox. Job, your whatever it is going on individually. Constantly plan getaways. I don't know. It might be a big one. It might be something in your locale, whatever. Just something that will help you both to distress, because sometimes the pressure of life gets you so hard that you guys begin to fight each other, not because you don't love yourself, just that life.
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
You become intolerant.
Yes. Go on.
Okay, I was saying you become intolerant.
Yeah.
Okay, we have some questions, and I want to ensure our viewers are happy. Okay, that they leave happy. So there was a question that came in earlier. Someone asked, "What's the?" I'll find it in a minute. What's the difference between love and trust? And I think you touched on that when you mentioned. I think Dr. Gospel mentioned that love can be unconditional, but trust no. Okay, so trust has to be earned. If it's been breached in the past, it should be rebuilt. And then another question that came after that was, is there a perfect spouse? And I think from all we've been sharing today, we know that it's about two imperfect people coming together to form a beautiful union. We make it what it becomes. So no one has it all. We all have our strengths and weaknesses, and we bring that into the relationship. So if you bear with me, I'm going to find the other question, which I think is critical. Okay, this is another one. What's the relationship between love and trust? And I think you touched on that as well, saying, yeah, I can love you unconditionally, but if you mess up, if you breach the trust, then you need to prove yourself again. Yeah. So there's a question I think we need to touch on. If you bear with me 1 minute, there it is. What causes fencing in relationships, as in marriage?
What causes
what? You know what fencing is, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, can I quickly touch on two questions? The relationship between love and trust is that trust builds love. Trust maintains love. Trust maintains love. Trust makes love easier to give. That's relationship. If I trust you, I will love you easily. And if I love you, I'll be happy to trust you. But one does not always bring the other. That's one. For the other question, is there a perfect couple or spouse or marriage? No, there is no perfect marriage, but there are mature couples. Mature couples. So let's not use the word there are no perfect marriage to deceive ourselves. Our focus is to all be mature, independent to interdependent. Then there are immature couples. Don't be the immature one, be the mature one. Now, the fence, what breeds fences in marriage? Is it? I think we've answered that question. Still the issues around what creates toxicity in marriage. For instance, if we take our spouse for granted because we've lived with them for a long time, we know everything about them, that in itself could create that fence. Lack of communication can create a fence. Can create a fence. When we keep secrets from each other, we are not transparent, it can create a fence. Doing our own thing can create a fence where we don't bring our spouse into our space and into what we are doing with our life. You excluding your spouse, you make your decisions excluding your spouse. For instance, you want to buy a car, you want to buy a house, your spouse is not aware of it. Those kind of stuff can create a fence. You have a end salary, your spouse doesn't even know how much you have or how much.
Absolutely.
It can create a barrier because this person now would think, oh, I'm not even in his life. He doesn't even carry me along. So let me start. When you relate with your in-laws, with your siblings or extended family members, without your spouse, you send money to them, you take care of them, or you neglect house. You don't carry your spouse along as you do that. That can create a fence. Now it's about you do your thing, you take care of your people, while I do my thing, while I take care of my people. So growing, you're upskilling yourself, you're traveling, doing courses, being the best you, and you don't support your spouse. I'm talking from a man's point of view. You're the one going for trainings, you're the one doing your MBA and all of that. She's the one taking doing online business, which you know is just her at home doing all that. But when helping her to be the best that she can be.
Absolutely.
Then you're building that barrier for your marriage.
Fantastic.
Good man, wonderful husband should think about the spouse. Back to what you said, being selfish. Yes, you yourself to gain more money, but it's not just about money. You're one who has potentials, who needs to create a forum or a platform for her to be the best that she can be. God did not say a man should fulfill his purpose, a woman should not. No, we are all beings who have opportunity in life to be the best that we're supposed to be. Marriage, we can use marriage as an excuse to stifle the potentials of our spouse. So for me, I am the most privileged person when my wife is doing well in her career, doing well in what she loves to do. It gives me joy. And that's how it should be. Because your husband is the radiance of your glory.
Fantastic.
That's right.
Fantastic. Yes, man.
You got that there. You got that there.
Yeah, because one key thing, we always say something that if you're married to someone, I mean, 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, and people look at her or people look at him, and it's like a shadow of who he used to be, something is not quite right. All right. There should be a plus in that person's life because they are interacting with you. Guess what? Who are they interacting with the most? You. Because who are going to be in the next 5 years is hugely based on the people you interact with on a regular basis. And your spouse is your number one person. So as you are growing, that's why I like what Dr. Gospel said. As you are growing, make sure that you create an enabling environment. Some women, they don't even need you to create they make their own enabling environment. But if your spouse is like a laid-back kind of person, male or female, you need to create an enabling environment. How can you do that? Sometimes you discuss what you are learning. You might not know. She's listening. It's sinking in. You're bringing her up to your level of thinking. Because if you don't do that deliberately, you're going to have this mental gap. You know, this mental intimacy will not be there. You are trying to sell a vision about the next generation of the family. She can't come up. She can't really deliver, or he can't deliver, because you guys are not on the same mental wavelength. And if you don't have a spouse who has that capacity, that dream cannot be accomplished faster. You have to drag, because competency is not there. Thinking, belief systems are not there that support that new venture. So it's very important. So what you guys have said is that toxicity does not happen in a day. It's a gradual process. You know, when you build fences, when you don't carry your spouse along, when you don't address issues, this kind of toxicity, this kind of energy begin to become negative. When you are building you are living parallel lives. You are in the same physical space, but you are in different mental spaces. So you guys are just going straight like that. There is no interconnection. So toxicity is something that happens over a period of time. And same way, it can build intimacy over a period of time. Fantastic, fantastic. Okay, so we have some other questions to add, but because of time, I think we'll just kind of ask, what are the key things? What are the key things that you think can be a blind spot for someone who is kind of becoming toxic? Because Dr. Amara said something. She said that sometimes stress level, which is a very important thing, people don't take time to detox, to distress. All right. So what signs should someone see that will make them call themselves? In case you have a spouse that is introverted, wouldn't want to call your attention to it. So what signs will you see to say, you know what, hey, Victor, hey, James, hey, I need to call myself to order. I need to pull back because I'm not being the most healthy person to be around right now.
So now you're asking if I am the person creating the environment, what can within myself to have that retrospective approach, or whatever it is, right? That's the question. For me, I think your relationship should be a springboard or a kind of checker that tells you how what you're producing or what you're projecting or what you're bringing on board, how it's, whether it is positive or negative, your relationship. So if your relationship is not working, it's not your wife's fault. It is the two of you. You have a responsibility to.
Fantastic.
That's number one. Number two, if your wife, I say wife because I'm a husband. So if your wife is not happy, know that something is wrong. It could be of her experience outside of the. It could be her expectation from marriage. It could be because of your contribution to the marriage. So what do you not happy? You have to know that you have to take responsibility, whether it is because of her experience in her job or wherever it is outside the marriage, or her expectation or your contribution. You have to play, whether you're a wife or a husband. Your role is have that open conversation with your spouse. You're not happy. I know that your mood is not the way it used to be. What's is there done wrong that could create this kind of unhealthy emotional state that you're in?
Fantastic.
If you create that and the person knows that you're sincere to talk about it, the person will raise. So if the person tells you that, yes, I'm not happy because of you, there's something you did that I don't like.
Fantastic.
Being practical and I'm being honest with you. If you think you've not done anything wrong and this person is because of what you've done, the first reaction is defense. That's the natural thing to do. You want to defend yourself to say no. In fact, it's not me. It could be you. It could be what you're thinking in your head. And once you go that approach, what you're doing is to block that access to communication.
Yep.
So the best to do is, even if someone is saying that is you, your purpose or your aim is to create a solution. So listen first. Don't listen with your ears.
Yeah.
Listen with your heart. I always say this because the words may not be what the person is saying. The person might be saying beyond the words. So if the person is saying it's something you did, it might be something you did unintentionally. So if you listen with your heart and see how your actions or inactions or your what you did by commission or omission has created that negative feeling, negative energy, that toxic reaction from your spouse, then your responsibility is to take responsibility of it. Ask this person for forgiveness. It's difficult, but this is what I do. Ask for forgiveness because your silence, it could even be how you managed a conflict that has negative feeling around your spouse. So you have to apologize for actually handling conflict in a way that made your spouse to be angry.
Fantastic.
It takes humility to be in this state. It takes knowledge to. It takes commitment.
Yes.
Fantastic.
People define love in different ways. People say love is feeling how I feel about you. But for me, love is what you do. It is your commitment to be the best and to do the best for this person. So if you're out to be the best, make sure that at every point in time, your spouse is the best version of her. By being happy, by being in the best state, because when that person is happy and in the best state of mind, the person will get that. That's the law of reciprocity. If your spouse is loving, caring, it's all back to you. There's so much because of our time.
Fantastic.
I think you've said
fantastic.
Yeah.
Maybe
just point out a little bit. You know, most times when we are listening, and I'm using myself as an example, sometimes you just respond. So you're not listening what that person is saying. You're just listening to find something to say back. And that's listening. Because I don't even relate, oh no, someone says something, oh no, you just jump in and that's not what happened. And in the early stages of our relationship, I used to be like that. So basically just listening to him, trying to say something. He's actually trying to speak his heart. And I'm respond to whatever it is that's been said, not to that he's trying to communicate. And I think we go beyond this one. This is where we begin to build a kind of intimate relationship.
Fantastic.
You know, beyond the superficial into where you begin to deep stuff. You know, you become vulnerable with each other.
That's right.
At that point of vulnerability, you can tell. You can read your spouse from a distance. You know, at times I pick up the phone and I'm not seeing his face, I'm speaking to him and he's saying something to me and I'm saying, what's the problem? Lot I can pick. I can pick is the energy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's
absolutely
sort of
fantastic.
And you can just tell something is off.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. That's why they say intimacy is intimacy. You can see into this person, you can feel their temperature, you can feel their heart, even if you don't see them, because it's like, you know, when you interact with someone over a period of time, you kind of know when things are off. You just know because, I mean, you spend time with this person, So I like the point you mentioned in terms of some key things that can cause a toxic relationship. And you've pointed out some of those. One of it is not apologizing on time. And just to add a few points to that, one other thing is that you can do to caution yourself is when you notice that you are snapping a lot, you know, you just, any little thing you're snapping, maybe it's time to call a timeout. You listen with impatience, with disgust in your face, as you are listening, like, say it. You know that it's time for you to say, hey, I need to draw back. Maybe it is a time whereby you've gone for a long time. For example, when was completing my PhD, I've gone for a long time under intense stress for over 3 years. By the time I was handing in my PhD, I was completely emotionally exhausted. So I had to have a timeout just to be able to recharge my batteries. So sometimes people who have been, maybe they do a stressful job for over a long period of time, they've not had time. If you notice that you are beginning to feel uneasy, things that would never rarely become an argument is now it just become an instant conflict, you know, it's time for you to call, have a timeout. Yeah.
Sorry, I just smiled at the comments.
Yeah.
So is
it? Oh.
It's so funny.
Good is over. That's a soldier boy there. You know,
okay. It's been really it's been a great time with you both. You want to share something?
We have a lot to say, but
yeah. I know. I know we could go on. Maybe we'll do a repeat session.
Yeah.
Okay. It's been a great time, and there's been so much to glean from what you shared. And I just thought we'll throw this out to anyone who is listening, and you think, oh, I've been in this relationship and things have not been so well. I need help now. Okay. You've tried to manage it within yourselves, not involve the third party. Hey, we're here. You can contact us. We have what we call the Intimacy Builders coaching Intimacy Builder program.
Absolutely.
It's a coaching program. And if you are happy, we can give you a 1 hour free session. And most times people even leave with so much from that session. So rather than just sit back and stay there and think, keep wondering when help will come. Okay, you can reach out to us, or you can reach out to Doctors Gospel and Amara Amaugo, and shortly they'll be telling us where we can find them, and we will leave their contacts under this in the comment section right after. So feel free, come out. Okay, don't just stay there until things until things explode. Okay, you can reach out to them, and they'll be happy to work with you as well. So please, Doctors Gospel and Amaugo and Amara, can you tell us where they can find you? I know we'll be leaving it in the comment section, but it'd be nice if you also say it.
Okay, we are on all social media platforms. On YouTube, you can find us, Relationship Builders Forum. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook. So please, feel free, reach out to us. And I always say we're learning. I don't like to think about ourselves as experts. A lot of people try to say, oh, we're expert, but we're not. We're all learning. We're just passionate about intentional marriage. We're passionate about healthy relationship and making sure that people are having the best time of their life in marriage. Marriage is beautiful. Like, I'm totally born in my marriage. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah. But carry on.
Okay, just like a final word, just before we leave, if I may, can I?
Yes, go for it.
Okay,
go for it.
Your marriage is a model. Just think about it. Think about the fact that people are watching. It's not live fake lives, because people are watching. Think about little ones you're raising in the marriage, they are watching. One thing I always say is, do I want my son to have about marriage? I want marriage, beautiful institution ever. And I say, look, as long as my marriage exists, I'm just going to be that model for him. And encourage you. It doesn't matter what marriage looks like, but look, the grass is always greener on the other side. It's only not there because it's being tended to, it's being watered. Your marriage, if you can be intentional about it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Brilliant.
I would also say that, don't make decisions based on temporary situations.
Fantastic.
What you are experiencing your marriage today is just a season. It could be spouse is in a season of his or her life, or you season of your life, or yourself is in his own season. Don't make a lifetime decision based on the decision I want is to decide today that whatever it takes, you will make your marriage work. And that you have to control your circle of influence. And your circle is your ability to control the things you do, how much you give in your marriage, your own responsibility and your own duty within the marriage. Don't expect to change your spouse, but I believe do your best. Your best could be a motivation for your spouse, that difficult spouse. It could be for her to be the best for you.
Fantastic, fantastic. Wow, we're able to look at definition of a difficult spouse.
Yeah.
That the difficult spouse can be subjective, can be objective. We're able to look at sometimes someone being a difficult spouse is because of the phase of life where they are at. We're able to look at nobody will be a difficult spouse can evolve, can change, and become a better version of themselves if you create the right environment. We also discuss that a difficult spouse can call themselves to order, call themselves to a higher order. We also discuss the fact that as you are growing, you need to create an atmosphere for your spouse to grow, because marriage, a great marriage doesn't happen automatically. You have to be intentional about it. And Dr. Gospel used the example of a farmland. You need to nurture it. If you leave it fallow, weed will spring up. That's the only thing that grows automatic, weeds. Dr. Amara used the example of instrument. You have to tune your instrument, and as you do that, you guys become in sync, and then you can play a melody, a harmonious melody. You develop a rhythm, all right, where you guys can flow and interact. So it's been a fantastic discussion. A lot have been learned. For those of you that will be watching this later, please write in the comment section, what point did you take away? And what are you going to do differently? What did you learn? And what are you going to do differently? And if you are living with a difficult spouse, you have questions, or you know someone who is living with a difficult spouse, ask your questions, and we'll do our best to reply to all of your questions.
And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Feel free. Okay, we're here.
We are here for you guys. We try to bring you guys the best content ever, because our goal is that you have a healthy marriage. When you are healthy as an individual, then you can have a healthy marriage. And when you have a healthy marriage, you have an intimate marriage where people can be themselves, where people can thrive, where people can accomplish their biggest goal. Because marriage is not an end in itself. It's a means to an end. The end is that you be your best version, that you live and die empty, where you fulfill everything that you are supposed to be on this earth to do, not having a toxic relationship holding you bound. And that's our goal. Thank you all.
And thank you again, our guests. You've been
fantastic.
Wonderful.
You guys have been fantastic. God bless you guys, and we'll see you guys again. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.